Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Gameday Gameplay, the sports segment of Console Space. I'm your host, Sean Colangelo, and I'm joined by the man I envy the most in the wintertime, Tyler from Florida. How's it going, man?
It's going good, Sean. How you doing?
Uh, I've been better, man, but going back to the doctor tomorrow, trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with me, but I'll spare the details. Hopefully you can get some answers, though. We'll see. Um,
Absolutely.
Well, we have some kind of breaking news this actually just surfaced a couple of hours ago, and it's
What's
probably the
up?
most important news, perhaps of all time. Vince McMahon is bringing the XFL back.
Yep. Um, we'll see how that goes. Obviously the first time around was a pretty unmitigated disaster in all shapes and sizes.
It was, however, do you think with the current state of the NFL and they do have lower ratings and they seem to be losing viewership? I think I don't know. Do you think the XFL actually might be able to steal you know um, some of its thunder?
I think they might last more than a season this time. Um, I think that you might see some people that claim to be boycotting the NFL kind of push and watch both. I don't know many people that told me they were boycotting the NFL and that lasted all season. I've had plenty of my friends and family that claimed they were going to boycott after the whole controversy, and they're now talking about their Super Bowl watch party. So I was like, yeah, that lasted long, didn't it?
That's a
Um,
good point. Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured.
at the end of the day, I don't think the talent's going to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody that's going to play for the XFL wasn't good enough to make an NFL team. So it might be a good distraction. It might be something that some people might pick up a couple games on. It might last a couple seasons, but I don't think it's going to threaten the NFL in any serious way.
Yeah, you're probably right. I just kind of hope it does because I think it'd be hilarious. But
I mean, yeah, more competition's good. It might push the NFL to finally kind of figure some of their shit out. Specifically, the rules. That's one of the most frustrating things about watching the NFL is what is a catch, what isn't a catch. The league seems to be making up the rules as they go along, and hopefully, maybe this idea of some competition coming will push them to put a better product on the field more
yeah,
so. But that's about the only thing I'm hoping to get out of this. To be honest with you.
yeah. All right, well, let's continue on with the usual categories. Do you have anything with the MLB or not really?
I do not. Not this
Okay.
week, no.
Uh, I didn't figure there's not much going on.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's start with the NBA then.
Start with the NBA. Sounds good. Um, as you know, it's kind of NBA season kind of follows along the same path as the NHL season for the most part in terms of timetables and such. So we're hitting about that halfway point of the season, a little past it, to be honest with you. Things are starting to shape up. One interesting thing that happened this week is LeBron James reached 30,000 career points.
Damn.
He's only the seventh player in the history to hit that many points. He's also the youngest player to ever do it. Um,
Wow.
so you know, uh, I don't think there's really any doubt LeBron James is one of the greats. I still argue against him being the greatest of all time, and certainly he's the greatest of the modern era. There's no doubt about that. I don't think you can really make the argument about that. I still think Jordan was a better player at the time frame, but it's getting closer and closer to be honest with you. Um, and I don't think there really isn't an argument that Jordan did have better teams around him than LeBron usually did. So
Well, that's going to be a notch in Flu's belt.
yeah,
So for the few loyal listeners we may have, our friend Flu has been on here as a guest a couple of times, and he is of the opinion that LeBron is better than MJ,
hmm
and so that will be. I'm sure. I'm sure he'll bring that up in future arguments. Now that you know.
that'll be a notch, but I'd have to look. I would imagine Jordan probably could have got it around the same time frame that LeBron did if he hadn't left and gone to play baseball and that kind of thing. Kind of
That's
like the
true.
same argument about Lemieux. Lemieux probably would have been a lot closer to Gretzky's scoring records if he hadn't lost so much of his career to the illness and the injuries and such not. So,
Yeah, for sure.
um, but a little bit of other news going on in the NBA. Milwaukee has fired their coach. Fired Jason Kidd, who actually was their coach. Um, they have a 24-22 record. They're fighting for 8th place, which would be the last playoff spot in the Eastern Conference right now. But considering they started out somewhere around the 3rd, 4th place, and they've kind of skidded down, they've been on a pretty serious midseason skid. So they finally decided to make a change. And generally, when you make a change midseason, it's usually the coach in almost any sport, really, other than probably football. So. Kids out. I don't know who they're bringing in yet. They haven't announced anything, but they're hoping to turn their season around and keep their push going and keep that playoff spot locked up. Um, Speaking of playoff spots, we should probably take a look at the standings at this point because we are a little past midway of the season. They're starting to kind of level off, and we might get a good look at what the playoffs are going to look like. Over in the East, Boston is still sitting in first place with a 35-14 record. Toronto is kind of closing the gap on them though with a 32-14 record. It's a little bit surprising. Um, Cleveland is sitting in third. Miami is fourth. Washington is fifth. Indiana is sixth. Philadelphia, which is kind of a surprise after they've been hot garbage for the last 5 years, is sitting at seventh, and Milwaukee is holding on to that eighth spot. Those are all the teams that are above 500, and they're all the teams that are in the playoffs. There's a couple teams that could make some late season pushes, mostly Detroit and New York. Probably more so Detroit, but we'll just have to see what happens there.
You're right.
Yep. Over in the West, Golden State has the best record in basketball with a 38-10 record. They're followed closely by Houston at 34-12, and then San Antonio, Minnesota. Oklahoma City's pushed their way back up to 5th in the West, so they finally kind of put it together and started going on a run. New Orleans is 6th, Portland is 7th, and Denver is 8th. A couple other teams, like I said, could be in contention. LA is pretty close behind Denver. They could be battling back and forth, but that's pretty much what it's probably going to play out as, to be honest with you. Especially the top 4, really, and all the conferences probably aren't going to change that much going down the line. But last thing I wanted to touch on here, as you know, the trade deadline for basketball is quickly approaching. It's around the same time as the NHL trade deadline. I think it's about a week or 2 weeks later than it, but it's around that same time frame. There's some big names being floated around. The two biggest that I've seen are Damian Lillard from Portland and Kemba Walker from Charlotte as potential guys that might be on the move. Damian Lillard had a meeting with Portland's owner today about the direction their team's going in. They've been a playoff team for 4 or 5 straight years, I think, but they're kind of sliding out, and they're now 7th in the West and in threat of sliding out of that position. And Lillard's not really a big fan of the fact that they haven't really built a winning team around him there in Portland. Kemba has played for Charlotte his entire career. Charlotte's been a perennial bottom-tier team. Not really worse in the league, but like a top bottom 10. He's probably hit the point in his career where he wants to go play for a winning team. And Jordan, who owns the Charlotte team, is probably gonna. I would guess he's probably gonna grant his request at this point. He's saying it'll take an all-star player to move him, but I don't know if that's the case. If Kemba wants out, Kemba can probably get out.
Kimba wants out.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a good band name.
That's what it's looking like, man. What?
That'd be a good band name.
It would be. It would be. Yeah, I mean Charlotte right now, they're 19 and 27. They're 11th in the East. They're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. So, Kimba's an all-star. He's a great player. I think he finally wants to take his talents to a team that could actually build around him and make a playoff push, maybe make a push for a championship even. So, it'll be interesting to see what he could return. But I really think Kimba's going to be on the move this year.
Hell to the yeah. I'm sorry, Todd. I just got a my friend Zach called me, and
Mhm.
I declined it because we were recording. But he texted me, and your boy's going to the Pens game tonight.
Are you?
I am.
Well, nice, nice. Hopefully they can win. You've got a pretty good record of win-loss when you're attending.
Dude, my God, they have won the last like I think 12 games that I've gone to. So
Oh, nice.
um, hopefully I can continue that streak. And then actually, not next
Are you
week,
going
but
to the
that
Vegas game?
yeah, I was gonna say not next week, but the following. I'm going to the Vegas game to see our old pal Fleury. Um, so
Old pal Flurry is
uh,
putting up Vezina style numbers this year too.
I know, right? Well, that means we should trade. We should trade Murray. So
Nah. He's also doing it in limited exposure. He's only played 17 games, so take it for what it is. But
yeah.
um, going on
Speaking
that
of,
trend, do you want to hop right into the NHL?
yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
All right, sounds good. Couple kind of big injury news. Joe Thornton is now out. They set a time frame of several weeks. They didn't give an exact number of weeks. It's a knee injury, so those are particularly kind of troublesome to heal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They, it's pretty hard to play hockey when your knee's not right. And James Reimer is out for Florida with 2 weeks. For 2 weeks with a groin injury. He pulled his groin, making a save in the game. I want to say last night. It might have been the night before last. I can't remember exactly when it was. I saw the injury happen. He was down on the ice for a good while, but it was just one of those ones where he stretched to make a save and kind of stretched too far. It does happen with goalies pretty frequently, to be honest with you. Um, so Reimer has been the starting guy in Florida recently over Luongo, but they obviously still have Luongo, so I think they'll be okay in that time frame. The Sharks are going to miss Thornton. There's no doubt about that. He's up there. He's 38. He's older, but he's still one of the premier passers in the league and can pitch just as well as anybody his age. So they're going to want him back sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty remarkable, you know, how well he is still playing. At that age.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely you don't see it that much in the modern day NHL anymore. I mean, obviously Yager, not so much this year, but before was doing it. But um, yeah, it usually by 35, 36 that time frame, most of these guys are fizzling out pretty hard.
Oh yeah.
So um, let's talk about. I don't know if you saw any of this. Toronto has been involved with some controversy. We'll put it that way, with some calls about goalie interference in the last 2 games.
Okay.
Um, they played They played Chicago last night, and they ended up beating Chicago off of a penalty shot in overtime, which is pretty crazy. uh, Nylander got called for or got a penalty shot called for him. He had to take one 6 seconds into overtime and hit it and into the game. However, during that game, they had a goal that was called back due to goal interference. Or no, they had a goal that stood. I apologize. Um, here's where it all starts. Toronto played the Avalanche on Monday night and lost that game 4-2. At some point in that game, Austin Matthews scored a goal. It appeared, and there was some incidental contact. It looked like with who was in net for them, Bernier. He hit the blocker. Matthews did as he was pushing in, but the puck was already behind Bernier, and he was just going in to push it into the net at that point. It was sliding across the crease behind Bernier. As he was coming in, he kind of made a little bit of contact with the blocker and the stick, and they called when they reviewed it, they called it back and said it was goalie interference. Took his goal away. Now he scored about, I think he scored in his next shift after that happened again and put it away, and kind of barked at the refs a little bit after he did. It was kind of
Yeah.
funny to watch. He pointed at the goal, doing the goal symbol, calling it a good goal, and then was mouthing off to the ref a little bit. Understandably, I watched the play and I didn't think it was enough to call it back. I really didn't. However, where it gets even worse is Chicago scored a goal yesterday, and there was a point where Anisi Mob was pretty much laying on top of Freddie Anderson when the goal was scored. I mean, he was right on top of him. He was in the blue paint and literally on top of Anderson. The goal went past him, and when they reviewed that, they called it a good goal, said there was no goal interference.
Oh man, I just don't understand. I don't think it's much of a secret at this point that the league has a consistency problem. It seems like
Oh, for sure.
when it comes to just about,
Uh,
replay, penalties.
Penalties called during the games, how often they're called, what is and isn't a penalty, what is and isn't goal interference, what is and isn't suspension worthy. I mean,
Yeah, I know by the nature of the game, there's going to be some gray area, and I,
yeah,
quite frankly, don't think that's such a bad thing all the time. But it's like, okay, so this year in particular, they're obviously heavily cracking down on slashing,
hmm
and some of that might have to do with injuries. I mean, look back at Crosby and Mathot, how he like hacked
yeah,
a piece of his finger off. I think part of it's probably also, the league wants more goals, they want more offense, which will happen if there are more power plays.
hmm
Um, and then, they obviously introduced that new face-off penalty now. I mean, they haven't called it, I don't think, very much this year, but, that is just another option. If the refs feel like it, they can put a team of man down. Um, but the ironic thing about all of this is you damn well know here in 3 months in the playoffs, they're not going to call jack shit.
yeah,
They're not going to call
100%.
it. And I
They've
get
already,
it.
I mean, the slashing thing has already gone way downhill based off of where it was at the beginning of the year.
I think so
There's,
too. Yeah. But I get it. At that point in the year, there's more at stake. They want the players to decide the game. But it just, to me, within any league, and again, there's going to be some human error and some gray area, but within any league, a penalty should be a penalty, whether it's the preseason or whether it's the postseason. Um, and it just doesn't seem to be that way in the NHL. And then uh, to go even further on that point, same thing with suspensions. Like you see Andrew Cogliano get 2 games for, I mean, a hit that sure he probably should have been ejected for and fined for maybe even, but then obviously you have Brown um, hits Schultz from behind. It was like much more egregious. It seemed, you know,
hmm
it seemed like he was even more intentional and more dirty, and he gets nothing. Well, he got fined, I think.
yeah, you get fined 10K, which to Brown is like getting a $160 parking ticket. You
But
know,
it's yeah, but if you compare that hit to Cogliano's, if Cogliano's warrants 2 games, then Brown's warrants like probably 5.
5 at
Um,
least, yeah.
so
No, that's exactly the argument I was making when that happens, and the league has got to at least on that part. I get on the individual games, it's going to come down to the referee's preference. Score effect's going to come into it. They're not going to give a team that's up 5-0 a bunch of calls. They're just not. Um, it's always been that way. It's probably always going to be that way. They're not going to if a game's 1-1, they're not going to call a tacky penalty. Late in the game. That kind of thing. With the penalties, I mean, it's frustrating at times to see things get missed or to see a ref clearly look at somebody do something that's illegal and not call it, like watch it right in front of them. But, it is what it is. That's part of the human side. But at least with these suspensions, you've got to have some kind of consistency in what is and isn't suspendable. The craziest part to me about all that thing was supposedly the history is supposed to come into play when you're making a suspension. Cogliano's never even gotten fined, and Brown's been suspended 2 or 3 times in his career. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's the
uh,
part. That's
yeah, like I said, they need to figure some things out in that regard. Um, I just don't understand a lot of the logic or lack thereof. Um, but
I,
unfortunately, it's
I
probably
hear
not
you.
going to change anytime soon. So
more than likely not. But while we're on the topic of suspensions, the last thing I have for NHL related news, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this.
Oh
Brad
yeah.
Marchand, 5 games for elbowing Marcus Johansson against the Devils. He got the maximum penalty he could get for a non-in-person hearing. So when I heard that his hearing was phone only, I knew it was going to be a shorter end suspension. I honestly didn't think he was even going to be 5. I thought he might get like 2 or 3 games. I thought it should be more, but I thought that was probably what they're going to give him. But they did give him the maximum they could give him without giving him an in-person hearing. So, um, did you see the hit? Have you seen the play?
Yeah. Um,
What was your opinion of it?
it was pretty bad. I mean, I'm not surprised. It's Marchand. He has a long history. Did you know that he has throughout his career he has paid almost $1 million in fines?
Suspensions or fines? Yep.
Yeah.
This is
Um.
his 9th supplemental discipline. He's had 4 fines and 5 suspensions at this point.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. If you listen to Boston fans, supposedly he was trying to make sure he didn't run the goalie and, was jumping around the goalie. However, I watched that replay and I see him clearly extend his elbow. Clearly, like, almost like WWE style flying elbow diving off the top rope right at Johansson's head. Um, I think you have to be looking at that play with some serious homer glasses to not see an intent to at
Well.
least. Now, I don't think he was going for the head specifically. You know what I mean? I don't. I think he might have been trying to just give him an elbow shot to the chest or something. But if you're throwing elbows, you're going to be responsible when it does make contact with the head. If it does, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what Boston fans do. They're homers. Now, granted, we're all homers to a degree, but
Yeah,
it,
to an
but
extent.
but for the love of God, at least the Pens got rid of Paul Steigerwald for Christ's sake.
Yeah. Jack Edwards still has a job. That's all you need to know.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad he got suspended. I'm glad he got a pretty hefty one in comparison to some of the other ones handed out. But given the play, given his history, especially given his history, dude. I mean, this is Marchand we're talking about. The guy has. This is what he's known for. This is his 3rd straight year, I think, with some kind of suspension. He definitely was last year for spearing late in the year against Dotchin. He's not gonna learn if you don't throw the book at him. Even if you throw the book at him, he might not learn. But I don't
Yeah.
know. And then on top of all that, they're gonna let him play in the All-Star game this weekend,
Of course.
even though he's suspended.
Yeah.
Which just sends such a great message about how much you're trying to protect players when you're letting a guy that's throwing elbows and slew foots and spears around like they're going out of style be in your freaking All-Star game. You're the face of his team. It's crazy to me. I don't know what they're doing. I get that Marchand's an elite player. He's an elite scorer. He's a superstar. I mean, he really is. The dude has, he's dropping 80-point seasons. They can't really not push him, but at the same time, if he gets suspended, there's other guys from Boston that could have played there. Pasternak could have played. McAvoy could have played. Well, he's injured, I think, but he could have. Tuke could have been in. There's plenty of guys they could have sent over Marchand and sent the message of, hey, this isn't what we support. This isn't the kind of hockey we push.
Hell, they probably should just have sent Phil Kessel. He should have got in over.
Yeah, but they have to do the whole thing where they have to have at least one player from each team. That's why freaking Noah Hannafin's there.
Oh, please.
Who knows?
Get it out of my face.
Yeah. I'm amazed they didn't pick Phil over Sid. Especially because here's the thing about Phil. The All-Star game, it's meant to show off the skill, but it's also kind of a press-related thing. They do a lot more interviews, a lot of talking. Phil's a far more entertaining guy on the microphone than Sid is. Far more entertaining.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you remember the whole incident from the All-Star game when they actually drafted the teams between the 2 captains, and the whole joke about Phil getting picked last?
Yeah.
And then the next year he was the first pick.
Right.
He bitched so much about getting picked last. Yeah, it was. That's the kind of thing that would make that event better. And as much as I love Sid, Sid's kind of a dry guy. He doesn't. He says political things all the time. He always says the right thing. He never stirs the pot. He's not really that entertaining of a person in terms of that kind of thing. So I think Kessel would have been better for the event overall, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. But
But yeah,
what are you gonna do?
yeah, it is what it is. But that's all I've got for the NHL, man.
All right. Well, I actually have to start getting ready to leave soon. So let's cap this up. Man, I was the Jags almost proved me right. They had it all and they blew it.
Had it all and they blew it.
Had it all and they blew it.
Had it all and they blew it. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I don't know. I have to see New England in another Super Bowl, and I'm not happy about it. I knew it was gonna happen. I pretty much knew going into this year that no one was gonna beat New England. Like, I knew no one in the AFC was gonna beat New England. But at the same time, some part of me hoped, especially when Jacksonville was up 17 to what was it, 17 to 10 or something late in the game. I was like, this happened? Is this really gonna be a thing? But
Bro, they were up 20-10 with 9 minutes left.
were they? Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was pretty typical, about what I expected. Kind of the same thing that happened in the Super Bowl last year. New England's down 23 at halftime, and I'm wanting to celebrate, but some part of me knows that this is Belichick's team, this is Brady's team, and they're gonna come back and screw me somehow, and they did. So.
yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, if you'd told me that the Jags would blow a two-score lead in 9 minutes, I would have been like, "There's no way," because they are so good. But they managed, and you know what though? Let's talk about what's even more shocking to me. Really, was just the fact that that one fumble that looked really, like it could have went either way. I can't believe they actually ruled that in Jags' favor.
Um, is that the one that they fumbled and recovered, but they could have returned, and then they blew it dead as soon as it happened?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Like it was late in the game, and it looked like the Patriots player was down, but he was kind of like, you know, the ball didn't seem like it was completely secure. I just can't believe they actually gave that to the Jags because with the way things go, I figured it would just go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know there was a play earlier in that game. I think it was the first half or something like that, where Miles Jack stripped the ball and picked it up and was going to be gone for a touchdown, but they blew the whistle really early and kind of screwed that one up. And then there was a questionable pass interference call that let the Patriots score before halftime on AJ Bouye. And then on top of that, I know one of the biggest ones that I've seen was the fact that, you know how they handed the ball off, I think it was to Dion Lewis on that last drive, and he got the first down on 3rd and 8 and pretty much killed the game at that point.
Oh, right. Yeah, I
The
couldn't
Patriots
believe
did.
it.
There was some severe holding on Jacksonville's defensive end on that play. I mean, they've shown the replay, and the guy has him pretty much in a bear hug from behind, keeping him from going after, and they didn't call that.
Well,
And I mean,
once again, wasn't there only one penalty on the Patriots that whole game?
probably. I haven't looked at the stats. More than likely.
I'm pretty sure they got called for one penalty for 10 yards.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. I don't know.
It just makes you wonder, man. I mean, again, they're great,
is
but
that going to change the game? Probably not. Jacksonville might have gotten the ball back and maybe they drive, but knowing how New England is, they probably would have held the lead anyway. But still, it's frustrating to see. It's just like I just want consistency. You know what I mean? If something's a penalty, it's a penalty. Especially that late in the game when it's going to make that much of a difference. You got to call something like that. But yeah, New England's going to the Super Bowl. We all knew it was going to happen. We all hoped it wasn't, but it it is. It's happening, and we're going to see Tom Brady yet again playing in the big game.
Yep. You gotta love it.
Yep. But let's talk about the other side, because on the upside, I was 2 for 2 in my picks this week. I believe. Did I pick Philly last week?
I believe you did.
I'm pretty sure I did. I'd have to go back and watch the thing again to be honest with you. I can't remember. I think I picked Philly though. I know I picked New England over Jacksonville, but Philly went in and manhandled uh, Minnesota. I mean, they absolutely manhandled them. That game was not close at any point in its entire run.
Yeah, that was. I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Now, Philly opened up as an underdog. It wasn't as big as an underdog as they did against Atlanta. I think they were like only a 3-point underdog over Minnesota. But we're talking about Minnesota, who supposedly had the best defense in the league in terms of scoring defense. I think they had the second best overall defense in the league in terms of actual defense. Definitely the best in the NFC, and Philly hung 38 on them with Nick Foles.
Wow.
That's insane. And on top of that, they held him to 7 points on the offensive side. So that sets up the Super Bowl, New England versus Philly in Minnesota. Honestly, I was hoping Minnesota would win that because I would have loved to see Minnesota have home field advantage like that. You know what I mean? I don't
Right.
think that's ever happened. It would have been really entertaining to watch. But let's go ahead. I know we have 2 weeks on this one, but we might as well get it out of the way, make our picks now. Who have you got in the Super Bowl, Sean?
Man. At this point, I don't see how you can go against the Pats.
Yeah.
I think maybe if the Eagles had Wentz, they would, maybe. But I don't know. I just don't see it. I'm sure the Pats will find a way. They usually do. So.
I will throw this out. Keep in mind the Patriots' record in the Super Bowl against the NFC East.
Oh, which is
0-2.
Oh, well,
Because
I mean,
of the Giants.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't. It's not like it really matters. But they obviously have beaten Philly before in the Super Bowl, so I don't know.
Well,
whatever.
yeah, you're right. So they're 1-2. I apologize. I forgot about that Philly Super Bowl, but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna sleep on Philly. I think Philly is gonna surprise some people in this game. I think this is gonna end up being a lot like the Jacksonville game. Well, Philly's probably gonna have a lead late. But at the end of the day, it's hard to pick against New England in this one. I'm right there with you. I'm going to pick New England on this one, but it really wouldn't surprise me if Philly ends up kind of shocking the world and taking this one. Mostly because I honestly feel like Philly's got more to play for. You know what I mean? Brady's career is he's set. You know what I mean? He's going to go down as probably the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't think there's really arguing. He's got 5 Super Bowls to his name. That 6 Super Bowl isn't going to make much of a difference. Philly has never won one, so I don't know. You know, obviously both teams are going to be motivated. Both teams want to be championships. I just see a little more motivation from a city and a team that's never won it before versus the defending Super Bowl champs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see it, but oh, and like it obviously it didn't matter last year, but you could point out that Gronk might not play.
Yeah.
I believe he's in concussion protocol, so if he can't get out of that, he will not be able to play. But obviously, that didn't matter last year. I mean, so we'll see. But
No, but I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna pick New England. I think it's gonna be a very close game. I think New England probably comes from behind late in this one and wins it, kind of like they did last year. Not as far. They're only gonna be down 23, I don't think. But I wouldn't be surprised to see it kind of like another 20-10 game going into the fourth quarter, and New England somehow pulls it out. So.
Yep, I could see it, my man.
Yep. Well, hopefully I'm wrong though, because I do not want to see Tom Brady eat a 6 ring.
Yeah. I mean, he would be tied with the franchise of the Steelers as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be kind of shitty. But
he would have the best record in terms of Super Bowl wins by himself, tied with the Steelers. So.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. And we will report back on that obviously next week. So if that's all I got, my man, I am going to get myself ready for some live hockey.
That sounds good. I hope you enjoy it. Next week we probably won't go into the NFL too much because obviously this is the down week here. They're not going to play the Super Bowl for another 2 weeks. So, but we'll
That's a good point.
We'll still cover the rest of the news going on around the other leagues and whatnot. So.
Sounds good, brother. I'll talk to you then.
All right. Sounds good, man.
Later.